For thousands of years, the greatest empires on Earth made the same fatal mistake over and over again. They marched onto the Iranian plateau with drawn swords, absolutely convinced that this civilization could be erased forever. The Macedonian phalanxes of Alexander the Great came here. The ruthless Roman legions advanced here. Arab armies carrying the banner of a new religion stormed these lands, and later, the savage hordes of Genghis Khan swept across it, leaving behind nothing but towers of skulls. Any other nation, after suffering such devastating blows, would have vanished completely. It would have dissolved into the genetic and cultural melting pot of history, just as the Babylonians, the Hittites, or the Assyrians once did. But with Iran, something entirely different kept happening. Even when they lost on the battlefield, even when their capitals fell and their land was occupied, the people of this region achieved something no one else in history managed to do. They absorbed their conquerors. Within just a few decades, the invaders began to speak Persian, build Persian architecture, adopt Persian administrative systems, and even dress like the people they once came to destroy. Again and again, the East digested both the West and the nomads. How did Iran, from ancient times to the present day, force every major world power to reckon with it? How did it preserve its identity through centuries of conquest? And how did it happen that Great Persia, a civilization with over 5,000 years of history, voluntarily abandoned its legendary name and asked the world to call it Iran? This is the story of a people who redefined time itself, who turned geopolitics into a sacred struggle between light and darkness, and who mastered the art of losing battles in order to ultimately win eternity. To truly understand this civilization, we have to go back, far back. Traditionally, the Western world considers Mesopotamia, Sumer, and Babylon, or ancient Egypt, as the cradle of civilization. In that narrative, Iran is often pushed aside, and that is a massive historical injustice. As far back as 50,000 years ago, human evolution was already unfolding on this land. Neanderthals once lived here, and around 36,000 years ago, they were replaced by early modern humans. But the real transformation came later. Archaeologists have discovered early urban settlements on Iranian territory, sites like Tepsialk, dating back 6,000 to 7,000 years. Ceramic artifacts from the 4th millennium BCE prove beyond doubt that one of the world's oldest civilizations developed here, alongside Mesopotamia and China. The first major geopolitical force in this region was Elam, a state located in the southwest of modern Iran, with its capital at Susa. The Elamites were powerful enough to rival, and at times dominate, Sumer. One of the most remarkable events of that era occurred in the 23rd century BCE, when the Akkadian king Naram-Sin went to war with Elam. The conflict didn't just end in a ceasefire. It resulted in a written agreement guaranteeing Elam's independence, provided its foreign policy aligned with Akkad. Think about that. This was the first recorded international treaty in human history. The Iranian world stood at the very origins of diplomacy. But the people we now call Iranians arrived later. Around the 2nd millennium BCE, Indo-European tribes began descending onto this plateau from Central Asia and the Caucasus. They belonged to the Indo-Iranian branch of a vast linguistic family that also gave rise to Latin, Greek, and most European languages. They called themselves Aryans, meaning noble, and their land Arianum, the land of the Aryans. Over time, this word evolved into what we now know as Iran. These newcomers merged with older cultures and formed powerful tribal unions, most notably the Medes and the Persians. And here, in this harsh landscape of mountains and deserts, they developed their most powerful weapon. Not chariots, not superior bows, an idea. Long before Christianity or Islam, a revolutionary religion emerged here, Zoroastrianism. For the ancient Iranians, life was not random, nor was it an endless cycle. The universe was a battlefield, an uncompromising war between Ahura Mazda, the god of light, truth, and order, and Angra Mainyu, the spirit of darkness, chaos, and lies. And crucially, this worldview identified where evil came from. The vast steppes of Eurasia, the lands of nomads, Turan, were seen as the source of destruction. To be Iranian meant to be a warrior of light. This belief created extraordinary unity. But Zoroastrianism did something even more profound. It introduced the concept of linear time. The world had a beginning. It would have an end. There would be a final battle, a purification by fire, and a last judgment. This idea would change human civilization forever. When the Persians conquered Babylon in the 6th century BCE, they freed the Jewish people from captivity. Judea became part of the Persian Empire, and during this period, Jewish thinkers absorbed these concepts: linear time, apocalypse, judgment. These ideas later flowed into Christianity and Islam. Philosophers like Friedrich Nietzsche acknowledged that Iran played a key role in shaping how humanity understands time itself. The first truly great Iranian state was Media, founded around the 7th century BCE. It didn't last long, but it helped destroy the Assyrian Empire. Then came the Persians. In 550 BCE, a man named Cyrus the Great, half Persian, half Median, united these peoples and built what historians consider the first true superpower, the Achaemenid Empire. Unlike many conquerors, Cyrus ruled through respect. He allowed local traditions, religions, and institutions to survive. His successor, Darius I, expanded the empire from Egypt to the Indus Valley. Nearly half the world's population lived under Persian rule. He divided the empire into provinces, introduced a unified taxation system, minted gold coins, and built roads with the fastest communication network of the ancient world. But even the greatest empires face limits. Cyrus himself died in battle against the Massagetae in Central Asia. According to Herodotus, their queen Tomiris had his head cut off and placed in a bag filled with blood, saying, "You thirsted for blood, now drink your fill." Despite this, the empire endured. We often hear that Greece defeated Persia, but that's a Western narrative. Yes, the Greeks defended their independence, but for Persia, losing a few Greek cities was insignificant. Instead, the Persians adapted. They funded Greek conflicts, playing Athens against Sparta. Eventually exhausted, the Greeks accepted peace on Persian terms. What Persia couldn't conquer militarily, it controlled through influence. But then came a true catastrophe. The empire grew too vast, central authority weakened, and a young Macedonian king, Alexander, took advantage. In 330 BCE, he crushed Persia and burned Persepolis. It seemed like the end. But once again, Iran did what it always does. It transformed its conquerors. Alexander himself adopted Persian customs, dress, and court rituals. Greek rule began to dissolve into Iranian culture. Later, the Parthians drove out the Greeks and built a new empire. For centuries, they fought Rome, often defeating its legions. Then came the Sassanid Empire, a centralized state where Zoroastrianism became official doctrine. For nearly 400 years, they battled Rome and Byzantium, but constant war drained them. And then, from the Arabian deserts, came a new force, the Islamic Caliphate. By 651 CE, the Sassanid Empire had fallen. Islam spread. Persian identity should have disappeared, like in Egypt or Syria. But it didn't. Once again, Iran absorbed its conquerors. The Islamic world began relying on Persian administrators, scholars, and culture. Persian language survived and thrived. Then came the Mongols. Cities were destroyed. Entire populations wiped out. It should have been the end. Instead, the Mongols converted to Islam, adopted Persian language, and built Persian-style cities. Even Timur, one of the most brutal conquerors, became a patron of Persian culture. For 300 years, different rulers came and went, but they all became Persian. In the 16th century, Shah Ismail founded the Safavid Empire and made Shia Islam the state religion, defining Iran's identity to this day. Later came decline, foreign interference, and loss of territory. By the 20th century, Iran was caught between Russia and Britain. Then, in 1935, Reza Shah made a bold move. He told the world, "Stop calling us Persia, call us Iran." This was not just a name change, it was a statement. We are not an exotic relic. We are a nation with deep roots and modern ambition. And today, a strange paradox exists. Iran evokes images of tension, sanctity, conflict. Persia evokes poetry, beauty, luxury, two identities, one nation. And perhaps its greatest battle is happening right now. Because sometimes behind a simple name there is a silent war. A war between who we were, who we are, and who the world wants us to be.